right now is talking about this opening of the Rafah crossing today from Gaza. It is an entry point and an exit point that Egypt orchestrated here to allow those who want to get out to get out. Not everybody, though. There's a limit to how many can come out. Rejoined again by Chairman McCaul, who was patient enough to go through that. Chairman, the president makes clear that this is a good first step. Of course, Egypt is providing that opportunity. Separately, France and the Netherlands are drawing up plans to get aid, presumably through that same entry point in the Gaza. But what do you make of how it's going thus far? Because part of checking who gets out is making sure that Hamas fighters are not among them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I know this has been a great diplomatic effort with Qatar, UAE, Saudis, Egypt. I can tell you the last thing Egypt wants to do is let a radicalized Palestinian Hamas come into their country. If you go back in time, it was that very faction of the Muslim Brotherhood that lit up al-Qaeda in their prisons with Zawahiri. So it's in their best interest not to allow that to occur. I know they're vetting people coming out of there. And I think also if you look at the battle plan that's taking place in Gaza, if you look at the middle of Gaza, you see the Israeli IDF, the military, going across to basically construct a blockade, if you will, that will then open up a humanitarian zone, cutting Hamas out of South Gaza and trapping them in north of Gaza, where they intend to deal with that threat and try to rescue hostages.
So, Chairman, and you had touched on, you were rudely interrupted there, but this notion of responding to Iran by attacking Iran or points in Iran and not some, desert hut or something in the middle of nowhere because you think you're taking out those who are acting on Iran's behalf. What do you think of that?
Well, they have proxies, right? And they operate through their proxies. They don't engage in this on their own. The IRGC does, for sure, but they really rely on their proxies, which are like the tentacles of Iran, that being Hamas, Hezbollah, the militia groups in Iraq and Syria, the Houthi rebels, and that sort of thing. We've been looking at updating our AUMF from 2001. We need to look at the terror proxies coming from Iran. But I think to step it up to bomb Iran right now would really be a big escalation that I'm not sure it would, I think, intensify things, not cool things down.
You would touch on it as well about your hope that they could get a security package that looks after the needs of Israel and Ukraine. But your new speaker, Mike Johnson, is not a fan of that, wants to limit it to Israel for the time being. You seem optimistic down the road that both countries' needs will be addressed. You want them addressed now. He seems to be saying Israel first, down the road, Ukraine. That looks like an impasse.
Well, the talk of the day right now is Israel, and I think it's important we show our support for Israel. But what we do want to see is we can't abandon our allies in Europe. We can't withdraw out of Ukraine like we did in Afghanistan. Look what happened there. And Putin said in 1 week he'd take over Ukraine. Then what kind of world are we looking at where our adversaries are emboldened like Putin, Chairman Xi, and the Ayatollah? I think the speaker has this about right. What he's looking at is a very strong border security package attached to the Ukraine aid package. That's something back home, that's all my constituents talk about. And if we can't deal with the political asylum issue, which is the real magnet here, then we're really failing to address the problem.
What's to stop some in Israel from thinking then, sir, again, with the best of intentions, I see where you're coming from, maybe where the speaker's coming from, that, President Zelensky could warn Israel, we were front and center, too, with America. You better be careful because Americans might, lose patience and get the wear and tear of a war with you, too.
Well, I've been critical of the way the administration has conducted the war and managed it. They've been very slow to get the weapons in. We do need more accountability, oversight. We need a path for victory. That's all my members really want to hear is what is your plan for victory? And I think you'll find the majority of them would support our allies in the region. This is a global interlinked threat against the United States and the West. So I think the speaker has come out messaging-wise saying he does support the effort in Ukraine, but we're going to have to get something in return for that. I think this is our best opportunity to get something on the border that could be a real game changer, as opposed to 7 million people that have come in to this country and then given notices to appear and released into our society.
It just seems to me less less attention to Ukraine, regardless. More attention to the border, to your point, more attention to Israel for the moment, less so to Ukraine for the moment. Am I right to interpret it that way?
But that will occur soon. I mean, you're going to see an aid package come out of the Senate that will have all 4 threats attached and linked together. So I don't want our friends in Ukraine to think we're abandoning them. We are supporting Israel this week, and I think next week you're going to be looking at a Ukraine border bill, but also an Indo-PACOM bill, Indo-Pacific bill, to protect Taiwan and our friends in the Asian Pacific from the threats coming out of communist China.
All right, Chairman McCaul, it's good catching up with you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.